Hey y'all, and welcome to the Hillbilly Chicken Ranch. I am Susan, your hostess. Well, 2 plus 2 doesn't always equal 4. 2 times 2 doesn't always equal 4 in the autoimmune world that I live in. And I have several autoimmune diseases, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the autoimmune storm that I've been in this week. I want to start by telling you that very early on, I had a doctor years and years ago when I was a child that every time I had a sniffle or a cold, I was given penicillin. And I had uh, kidney infections and bladder infections and so on and so forth, very young, at a very young age. Whether or not those were autoimmune or not, I don't know. But I developed a allergy reaction to penicillin and all the penicillin derivatives at a very young age. As I grew older, I started having other issues. Um, I was allergic to blueberries, and that's a latex allergy. Blueberries and latex have some similar compounds in them, and there's many vegetables that also has that latex compound in it. It's not latex per se, but it is akin to latex. So I have a latex allergy. And um, I found that out after I had my first daughter. I was eating blueberries for the very first time, loved the fruit, sat there and ate a full quart of blueberries by myself, and the next day I broke out from head to toe. So I found out I was allergic to blueberries. And I was, of course, given steroids at that time. And as I got older, I developed bronchitis, which turned into asthma. And then I developed diabetes and ankylosing spondylitis, which is a type of arthritis, and ultimately lupus. Oh, and hypothyroidism. Let's throw that one in there just for fun. I want to make this disclaimer before I get into the meat of this, but I wanted to let you know that I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional. I am just a person that is dealing with autoimmune issues, and I am putting out this information for you to do your own research. Make sure you always discuss anything that you add to your um, diet or supplements that may counteract with medications that you're taking. And I will list a few of these along the way. You'll see what I'm talking about as I go along. But do your own research. And I've just researched briefly, trying to find some ways to detoxify myself and get out of this storm. But my autoimmune storm started with a belly button infection. I have a rare flora that grows on the skin. It's naturally occurring. It grows on your skin, and it went into overdrive, and it caused an infection. So my doctor did a swab test, found out what it was, and gave me an antibiotic that was supposed to take care of it. And yay, let's take care of it, and it'll be gone. I had a reaction to that medication, and it sent me into a sinus, just completely draining sinus, coughing, can't talk, ulcers in the mouth, which I knew was lupus related, and I literally could not talk. I had ulcers all along my tongue. So I went back to my doctor, and she took me off that antibiotic and threw another antibiotic at me. Well, the second antibiotic gave me some other issues. I'm not going to go into detail about it because they were gross, but gave me some other issues. So I called again and spoke to her receptionist instead of her. And she was going to throw a third antibiotic at me, which was akin to the second one. And I said no. I put a stop to it right there. I said, I am in an autoimmune storm. I know what my body's going through. these are not helping me. So I have stopped the antibiotics, and this is one of the reasons I am not real fond of the medical community, because they always want to throw antibiotics at you, even though they know you have all these autoimmune things going on. And I'm not saying that antibiotics aren't good for some things. They are good for a multiple number of things. I have been healed many, many times from different issues that I've had over the years from antibiotics. So that's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying I had a physical reaction to the medication. Whether or not it's an allergic reaction, that's what they call it. I'm thinking it's an autoimmune reaction. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. So what is an autoimmune storm? Cytokine or cytokine, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. A cytokine storm happens when the immune system produces many inflammatory triggers. And I'm reading this out of my journal, y'all, that Miss Lisa and Mr. Jesse sent me from Lazy Days Ahead. This is what I'm using that journal for, so y'all know that I'm using it. This can cause serious symptoms, and it can also lead to organ failure and even death. And this is why I was so upset with my doctor for sending me to repeatedly trying to give me another antibiotic. Symptoms can include confusion, shortness of breath, lethargy, and more. Hypercytokinemia is a medical term. It refers to the overproduction of cytokines, which is a protein produced by cells. These cytokines are part of the immune system that regulate the body's response to disease and infection, as well as mediate normal cellular processes in the body. Cytokines stimulate the production of blood cells, aids in the development of maintenance and repair of tissues, regulate the immune system, drive inflammation through interferons, interleukins, and tumor necrosis factor alpha TNF-A. And I didn't mention, but I also have a blood clotting disorder. So that's another autoimmune response, and it's related to these cytokines. Oh, these cytokines. I get it right. So I think I'm on the right track. An overproduction of cytokine can result in the disease. And I had a reaction to one of the TNF blocker medications that brought on my lupus. I had another one that gave me tachycardia, which I didn't mention either. And both of those medications were being given to me for the lupus and the ankylosing spondylitis. So I have a growing list of medications that I've had a reaction to, and it continues this week. 2 different antibiotics brought on a cytokine storm or an autoimmune storm. And I'd rather say autoimmune, even though it's a longer word. So I've been doing some research. I want to find out what I can take to kind of bring me out of this. And first of all, you have to know what your triggers are. Well, I know the medications triggered this, but there are also foods that will trigger autoimmune things, and I'll talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to use a food removal method, and I'm going to start with the nightshade family, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. I'm going to detoxify, and I looked at several different over-the-counter natural products that I could purchase that would help my body detoxify. And one of them was suggested to me was SAMe, and I looked at it, and it can cause some neurological things to go on. I've had neurological things in the past. Don't want to go there, so I have decided not to use that one. But there is a product called NAC. It's N-acetyl L-cysteine. And I'll tell you a little bit about it. It strengthens your immunity system. It promotes cellular health. It boosts antioxidants. It helps your body replenish glutathione, the most powerful naturally occurring antioxidant. This helps to protect against free radicals and oxidative stress. What are the free radicals and oxidants? They're produced by stress, poor diet, and other factors that can harm perfectly healthy cells. And these should be taken with meals, and you take it as long as you need it for detoxification. And they recommend the dose of 600 to 1200 milligrams per day. So I'm going to be ordering that online. I don't even think my local Walmart carries it, and they probably would carry an inferior brand if they did. So I'm going to do a detox drink, and these are some of the things that helps your body detox. So I'm just going to list off this list of food items that will help detox a body. Peppermint. And I have plenty of peppermint growing in my flower bed. So I'm going to be out there picking some peppermint and making my peppermint tea with a cucumber. And I can add ginger, turmeric, and garlic to this. And they have been shown to decrease inflammation associated with autoimmune diseases. So I'm going to do that. I'm already taking an elderberry syrup that I pick up from the Amish community. You never want to eat elderberries raw, and you do not want to use elderberries if you are taking a medication known to decrease the immune system, immunosuppressants, such as organ transplant or rejection medicine, multiple sclerosis medicine, medications that treat psoriasis, rheumatoid arthritis, and other autoimmune diseases, including Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. And also, if you're on a steroid, you do not want to use elderberry. So it's always good to know what you can and cannot use with a natural remedy. So, I look into all of this, and I'm trying my best to find an answer to my problem. So I've gone over some of the detoxifications, and I mentioned the nightshades. And the nightshades list is quite extensive, and I've only listed some of them. Of course, tomatoes and eggplants and potatoes, we know these are nightshades, and I'm talking about the white potatoes. Capsicum, ashwagandha, I'm hoping I'm saying that right, would include blueberries, goji berries, and huckleberries. So I can't take those. I can't eat those. And I can't eat blueberries anyway. This also includes capsicum, cayenne peppers, chili pepper flakes, chili powder, coconut, crumbled or crushed red peppers, banana peppers, sweet or chili peppers, tomatillos, Australian desert raisins, pepinos, Peruvian ground cherries, narnahula or something like that. I don't know what that word is. Jalapeno, mandrakes, and even some flowers. And there's a whole bunch of others on the list that I looked at online. So I wrote those down in this book so I can avoid those. And y'all, I love my tomatoes. I love potatoes. I love eggplant. I love my peppers. And, but I'm going to have to figure out what are triggering these autoimmune responses that causes inflammation and illness. There are some good foods that do reverse some of the autoimmune effects. They don't completely rid you of them because autoimmune diseases are a lifetime sentence. Lupus has no cure. Ankylosing spondylitis has no cure. Diabetes can be controlled with diet, but it has no cure. Hypothyroidism has no cure. Blood clotting disorders have no cure. Tachycardia was brought on by a medication, and as far as I know, there's no cure for it. But these things can be controlled. So this is what I'm looking at. Leafy greens. And I can't eat the leafy greens because I have a blood clotting disorder, but I'm taking a supplement called serapeptase, and my doctor is watching very closely because she's intrigued by the results. I take it Monday through Friday. I take a 4,000 unit, I forget what the unit's called. I've mentioned it before in other videos. You have to take it on an empty stomach and drink about a cup of water with it. Wait an hour before you eat because this enzyme attacks proteins. So the idea is it will attack the cholesterol buildup in your arteries and blood clots and stuff like that. So, and it goes directly into your intestines, and that's where it starts to work. So I am able to eat some leafy greens, and I do that on the weekends when I'm off of the serapeptase. So I don't want to interfere with the serapeptase while I'm taking it. So when I'm off of it, I'll eat some kind of leafy green on the weekend. So 5 days I'm on it, 2 days I'm off. And that was my decision to do because I don't want my blood to get too thin, for one. And I did ask my doctor to do platelet counts on me because if this does attack the platelets, I want to know about that. So blood work is good, and I'll talk about the blood work in a moment. Turmeric, which is curcumin, is very, very good for inflammation and pain. Broccoli and cauliflower. Salmon and halibut, which I do not eat a lot of fish. I am not a fish eater, and so I take fish supplements, but occasionally I like to have salmon. Berries, and it lists blueberries in there, and blueberries, of course, was on the nightshades list, so it's a no-no. But strawberries and raspberries, blackberries, things like that. Sauerkraut, fermented foods, kimchi, kombucha, yogurt, kefir, all contain probiotics, so they're good for you. Green tea is also an antioxidant, but it contains caffeine, and I have tachycardia, and I can't have caffeine. So it limits me a lot on the food. And autoimmune disorders or diseases also come along with malnutrition. Your body doesn't absorb the vitamins and the nutrients that it needs to, so having to cut foods out of your diet is really not a good thing, but that's what I have to do. So I'm going to start with a food removal, and I'm going to start with a nightshade. So I've gotten that list done up, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the blood work. We're going to talk about the blood test for autoimmune diseases, and this does not cover everything. This is just a few of the tests that I know about, and this is why it is important to see your doctor. If you think you have an autoimmune disease, request these tests. It's a blood test. Blood tests can detect cancer, so you want to be able to get your blood drawn and have some tests done. C-reactive protein, it's called a CRP. It's a protein in the liver that shows inflammation in the body caused by autoimmune diseases. bacterial or fungal infection, and other chronic conditions, such as diabetes and osteoarthritis. An ANA, antinuclear antibody test. Antibodies are proteins that fight off foreign substances like viruses and bacteria. Antinuclear triggers the nucleus, the center of the cell, used to diagnose lupus, can signal other systematic autoimmune disorders, much like, hang on a minute, I got to turn the page. Rheumatoid arthritis, scleroderma, Jorgen's syndrome, I'm thinking I'm saying that right. And then there's a test called ferritin. It's proteins that stores iron in the body. Iron is regulated to make red blood cells and carry oxygen to the lungs. Still's disease, Henophobiosis, I can't pronounce that word, syndrome. Hemochromatosis is another one. There's an enzyme linked to immunoabsorbent assay, which is called ELISA. ELISA. ELISA looks at the markers including the IL-17 rheumatoid factor and anti-CCP antibodies. A basic metabolic panel is always good to have, and then HLA-B27 is a gene, and this test looks for that to be either positive or negative, and sometimes you can have it with a negative HLA-B27 for ankylosing spondylitis. So that's some of the blood works. DNA and genetics can play a part in this. In most cases, genes alone do not cause autoimmune disease. But I tested positive with a DNA test for a precursor to diabetes and for hemochromatosis, which does run in my dad's family. It is an inherited condition where the iron levels build up over time. This is known as iron overload. It can damage the liver, joints, pancreas, and heart if not treated. And I had an uncle that had this. I have a cousin that has this, and one of my daughters has hemochromatosis. The ferritin test usually reveals neuroblastoma, Hodgkin's lymphoma, cervical, oral, squamous cell, renal cell, T-cell lymphoma, CRC, and breast cancers. Hemochromatosis can also damage the liver and cause cirrhosis and cancer. It damages the heart, or it can lead to arthritis, diabetes, and sexual dysfunction. Okay, we're going to talk about the environmental stressors or triggers, and they are associated with autoimmune diseases. Genetics and environmental triggers can cause autoimmune response. Toxins, cigarette smoke, may increase the risk of RA, lupus, MS, Graves' disease, and this is not the AIDS that we have dealt with for years and years. This is an AIDS. Include ultraviolet light, silicone breast implants, pesticides, heavy metals like mercury. Mold may raise a concern. My stepmom died from a hole in her intestines, and we found black mold behind her bed. So I'm assuming she was a smoker, but it could have been the combination of the black mold and the cigarette smoke. We don't know, but it is a concern. Other possible triggers can be emotional stress or trauma, pregnancy, and medications. And we talked about the medications triggering mine. Common AIDS are rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, celiac disease, Hashimoto thyroiditis, Graves' disease, SLE lupus, which is one of the types of lupus I have two, psoriasis, Addison's disease, myasthenia gravis. I'm hoping I'm saying that right. Sjogren's syndrome, type 1 diabetes. Let me turn the page, and I think that's it. I have type 2 diabetes, but it is also considered an autoimmune. I want to keep going with this. I'm going to be journaling as I go through this process to try to heal my body of as much as I possibly can, and to keep these autoimmune diseases under wraps. And knowing your triggers is a big part of it, and learning your diet, what you can and can't eat, is going to be a major part of it. We can't control everything out in the environment. We can control what we put in our bodies. And there is a lot of talk on the internet, and I've seen the labeling myself where these genetically modified foods that they're putting out can cause cancers and all sorts of things. And I think they lead to a lot of the autoimmune stuff that's going on in our nation. So please, please read those labels when you go to the grocery stores and know what you're putting in your body. I am going more and more towards a healthy raw food type of diet, which is the diet that God intended for us to have. Fruits and vegetables, natural organically raised meats, naturally organically raised fruits and vegetables, and my dairy products are from organically raised cows. So we want to do as much as we possibly can to control this. I appreciate everybody's prayers this week. I am getting my voice back. I'm still real nasally, but thankfully the sores are gone in my mouth. And I recognized immediately what was happening, and I let my doctor know, even though she wanted to throw more medication at me. Doctors have a purpose, but we also need to be very diligent in our own health care. And I will close with that. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you.